Mary.
Good morning. Welcome to the UU Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunnyhill. We're so delighted that you could join us today for this service. Our mission here at Sunnyhill is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Krista Stanley, and I serve as a worship associate for this congregation. If you're a newcomer or a visitor to our congregation, please go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says New to Sunnyhill to receive more information about our congregation and to receive our weekly email newsletter. Also, if you'd like to be greeted as a newcomer today after the service, please take a red mug and members will seek you out to be sure that you are warmly welcomed. If you're joining us online today, please say hello or good morning in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. We'd like to hear from you and extend a welcome to you as well. For all of those who are here in person, just a gentle reminder, please silence your cell phones or other electronic devices so we can enjoy this service uninterrupted by buzzing or ringing. Our minister, Reverend Jim McGaw, is not here today, so our service leader will be Sunnyhill member Joe Barker. Joe's sermon is titled, Life is All About the Journey. This sermon presents a spiritual journey over 70 years involving a search for spiritual community that provides support, reflection, questions, and challenges. This reflection provides an opportunity to consider, why am I at Sunnyhill? Our opening words were written by Margaret Weiss. Come into this place with your whole self, the parts that are raw and exposed, the part that is beaming with joy, the part that is seeking the truth, the new, the possibility. Come into this place, open your heart, lay down your burden, lift up your hope for something new to happen. Come into this place with fellow travelers on the journey, some faces new and others familiar, and all welcoming you here, now to this moment. Come, let us worship together. Please join me in saying the words for lighting our chalice. We are a people of memory. As inheritors of our ancestors' legacy, we hold their stories tenderly, gleaning wisdom from diverse journeys, united in hope for the future. Guide us to trust in love as we kindle this flame together.
Good morning. There's like a fun purple thing happening right here. It's giving me joy this morning. Please rise and body your spirit to join in singing our opening hymn. Come sing a song with me. Literally. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll give you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning. It's time for our story for all ages. If there are any kiddos present that want to come up to listen to our story, now's your chance. Come on up. There we go. I've got to take her. Come on up, Luna. Where's all of our friends today? I see some. I see more. Oh, there's one of my best friends. That's fine, I'll help you. Good morning, friends. How are you today? Pretty good. I know, where's everyone? I do too, but that's okay. They can stay in their seats if they want to. All right, so our story today comes from the Sufi tradition. There was once a stream that started way up high on a mountain. It traveled through every kind of countryside, at last, until it reached the sands of a desert. It had made its way through and around every barrier it came across, until this one, the desert. It found that as fast as it ran into the sand, its waters disappeared. It was convinced, however, that its destiny was to cross this desert, and yet there was no way. Now a hidden voice coming from the desert itself whispered, "The wind crosses the desert, and so can the stream." The stream objected that it was dashing itself against the sand and only getting absorbed. that the wind could fly, and that's why it could cross the desert. By attempting to get through the way you always have, you cannot get across. You'll either disappear or become a marsh. You must allow the wind to carry you over to your destination. But how could this happen? By allowing yourself to be absorbed in the wind. This idea was not acceptable to the stream. After all, it had never been absorbed before. It did not want to lose its individuality. And if it lost it, how would it get it back? The wind, said the whisper, will help you with this. The wind takes up the water, carries it over the desert, and lets it fall again. Falling as rain, the water again becomes a river. How can I know if this is true? It is so, and if you do not believe it, you cannot become more than a quagmire, which is the word for a spongy, wet ground that is hard to walk in, right before a stream. Have you ever been to like a stream or a creek? That part that's like, you know what part I'm talking about? It's yucky to get to step in. Yeah, like the muddy part, exactly. Certainly that's not the same as a stream. But I cannot remain the same stream that I am today. You cannot in either case remain so, the whisper said. Your essential part is carried away and forms a stream again. You are called what you are even today because you don't know which part of you is the essential one. When it heard this, certain echoes began to arise in the thoughts of a stream. Dimly, it remembered a state in which it, or some part of it, had been held in the arms of the wind. It had also remembered, or did it, that this was the real thing, not necessarily the obvious thing to do. And the stream raised its vapor into the welcoming arms of the wind, which gently and easily took it upwards and along, letting it fall softly as soon as they reached the roof of a mountain many, many, many miles away. And because it had its doubts, the stream was able to remember and record more strongly in its mind the details of the experience. It reflected, yes, now I have learned my true identity. One of the lessons of this story is that anytime we start something new, whether it's a trip to someplace we've never been before, or moving to a new house, or starting at a new school, we will be changed by that experience. After all, it's only by changing that we can grow. But we also know that even with all the changes that may happen, there's still some essential part of who we are that we always carry with us. Something that sometimes becomes clear as a result of those changes. So our job is to remain open to all of it, all of the changes and all the things that we can learn along the way. And with that, we will head to our RE class. First, let's sing the children out, and big children.
As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go, as you go, may joy surround you. I'm coming off of a UU musicians conference, and there was so much drumming. I couldn't not drum today. Y'all, she sings too. How lucky are we?
Good morning. My name is Jean Ferlin, a member of Sunnyhill's Pastoral Care Team. The mission of our team is to reach out to members of the congregation who are going through challenging or significant life events. The Pastoral Care Team offers a listening ear when you need to be heard. It's our personal connections that offer a loving presence, and that is what binds Sunnyhill together. If you'd like to know more, please seek me out after the service. Each week at this time, we share joys and sorrows submitted by our members. They may be submitted online from our website, sunnyhill.org, or by filling out a paper form in Fellowship Hall. After each joy or sorrow that I read, please respond by saying, "We hold you in our hearts." There is a sorrow from Dennis Sweeney. Last Tuesday, Martha Sweeney fell and broke her hip. She had successful surgery at Allegheny General Hospital and will be transitioned to skilled nursing care tomorrow. Cards may be sent to the Sweeney's home address. To Martha and Dennis and family, we hold you in our hearts. And from Mary Kretschmar, her sorrow is that her 93-year-old mother fell and broke her hip Monday night. The joy is that she was able to use Alexa to reach out for help, and that her surgery on Tuesday went very well. To Mary and her family, we hold you in our hearts. And a joy from Jean Enright. She is doing well after knee replacement surgery on Wednesday. To Jeannie and her family, we hold you in our hearts. And finally, a joy from Larry Comden and me. We are excited to announce the birth of our first great-grandchild. Early this morning, Nancy Comden Schnurr gave birth to Benjamin Paul. To the Schnurr and Comden families, we hold you in our hearts. As we listen to our musical meditation, we invite anyone who feels moved to do so to come forward, light a candle, place it in the sand, and then return to your seat.
The song we're going to sing, Just As Long As I Have Breath, is that right? Yeah. Is one we haven't sung for a while. So Renee's going to play it through once, and then we'll start singing.
Please join me in a spirit of meditation or prayer. Each movement we make forward, backward, sideways might be the start of a journey that will take us places we may never have imagined, anticipated, or prepared for. Each departure might lead toward ideas, insights, inspirations that would not have been possible or even conceivable had we remained mired in the narrow confines of our former lives. Each moment of disequilibrium, of falling and catching ourselves, might result in the first step towards something entirely new, something that has long remained obscured from our view. Let us take a moment of silence to consider the journeys of our lives, those that have brought us to this place and those that will lead us on. May our lives be blessed with the awareness of the journey we are on. May our journeying lead us to a place of peace, freedom, and understanding. And may we be forever grateful for our traveling companions on this road of life. Amen. Good morning. First of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to share this morning on This Life is All About the Journey. And I hope during this experience you feel that you also are on this journey, not only yourselves, but with me. For many of us, a spiritual journey is a never-ending, lifelong experience. It is often more complex and unexpected than we can imagine, especially if it begins in an Irish Catholic family, my family, after the Second World War. My parents were wonderful people, and they raised us in an Irish Catholic culture that really enveloped our lives. Many people would say trapped, but I would rather use the word enveloped. This included Catholic schools, Catholic church, sometimes on a daily basis, priests, nuns, Catholic friends, and Catholic life. To give you an idea of our home had religious pictures. There was Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus on the cross, photos of the President, John Kennedy, of course, and the current Pope. There were crosses everywhere, holy water fonts, poems in the form of crosses. The first initials, and this one really gets to people, the first initials of the three magi that visited Jesus and Mary, Gaspar, Balthazar, and Melchior, carved on the outside of our front door. And that's a true practice. A statue of Mary in the hall, and a strict code of adherence to Catholic practices. We were taught, we were a part of the one true, holy Catholic Church. I was, as a child, a torchbearer, holding a large candle with 5 other boys around the altar during Eucharist. I loved the red outfit. After that, I became an altar boy for Mass and a choir boy. This culture and religion permeated our lives and thinking, so much so, and this is hard to imagine today, but I take you back to 1958, when I am 10 years old, and my father has me in the church hall selling specials for bingo. And I, at that age, knew that I went up and down the aisles and I would shout, 3 specials for 5 cents, and the next game is the big T. Forget child labor laws. We raise money for the Catholic Church. One lasting and loving memory of our home life that reflects this culture was my mother praying the rosary every night after dinner. And at the end of the rosary, she would sing the Latin Ave Maria, a worshipful prayer and song to Mary, the mother of Jesus. And you could hear this through our house. It sounded something like this. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, salve Regina. And she would continue and end that prayer, and the house was quiet. I did not do that justice. My mother would be embarrassed. In the neighborhood of my childhood, the neighborhood was Sheridan, some of our neighbors, the Protestants, called us Mickeys. We were called that because so many of us, including my grandmother McCarthy, our names began with a MC. And I think they thought it was derogatory, and we loved it. We owned that term. We loved it. We owned it so much that we called each other as children Crazy Mickeys. You crazy Mickey, you coming out today? You're going to join me to go to confession? You crazy Mickey. And some of you will remember that term from your childhood. As a child, I had a deep dedication to Catholicism. In Catholic school, and some of you, a few of you maybe, may remember that we were taught and memorized something called the Baltimore Catechism. This book was written in the late 19th century with 135 questions and answers that Catholic children memorized. For example, who made me? God made me. Why did God make me? To love and serve him in this world and to happy with him in the next. Knowing those 135 questions and answers assured conformity and an absence of questioning within Catholicism. I have to tell you as an aside, I was really good at memorizing those questions and answers. So every week, I was awarded a holy card with a saint on it, and I had a collection. Take that, Richard McHugh and Timmy McGinley. I still remind them of that. Using contemporary technology and terminology, I knew I was gay from the age of 11. And I realized because of that and my background that going to the seminary and studying for the priesthood was possibly my only escape to respectability and acceptance. I enjoyed the seminary experience. At that time, I loved Latin Gregorian chant, the Mass, the incense, the music, the organized and predictable daily life that was repeated each day, the camaraderie and friendships, and the answers to all questions and concerns. The priests that ran the seminary allowed no ambiguity. Or more accurately, we should say, we expressed no ambiguity or uncertainty to them. I was ordained to the Catholic priesthood in 1974, and I was the pride of my family and friends, or so they said, to my face. I loved the people in my parish work and in my work in Catholic schools at North Catholic and at Lawrenceville Catholic in Pittsburgh. I, like other priests, was considered special, anointed, trusted, privileged, quite honestly, without qualification or accomplishment, just because you were ordained. Some of this will have grave consequences in the lives of many Catholics, distrust. I want to share with you now my journey and questions at this point in my life, my late 20s as a Catholic priest. I share these not to demean the faith of others, but only to share my journey. My questions at this point were, why can only celibate ordained men say the words that bring God into the fullest experience of Catholic life in the Eucharist? Why only men? Why do we as priests have to say the exact wording during Mass to make God most present in the Eucharist? The exact words. Any variation was not permitted and could invalidate the Eucharist for the participants. Why did God stop communicating in a meaningful way to us when we claim that revelation in the Bible ended in 110 AD with the last written word in the book of the Bible? How did we determine the end of written spiritual revelation? Another question I had was, did anyone think to ask God about this? Why is our life journey determined by answers and dogma, and not about questioning and experiences and journeys and reasons? Personally, did I want to live my life journey alone or with someone else? And lastly, is there only one spiritual path in life? Many other religions and persons outside the Catholic Church seem to also have insights and vision into their spirituality and a life well lived. Why do we not use and learn from their literature, insights, practices, and experiences? At one time, when I used a passage from a Buddhist sacred text during Mass, I was immediately cautioned after by the pastor and called to the diocesan building to be warned by a member of the Catholic hierarchy to cease and desist such practices. The only thing I think saved me was my youth, my innocence, and hopefully my smile. As I've shared with you and you can hear, these questions are a radical departure from my upbringing. Many years later, I heard Steve Jobs share about his journey, and I love this quote. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition in your journey. This statement forever seems to ring true to me and to many Unitarians. My life as a Catholic priest provided no life direction or meaning for me, so I left the Catholic priesthood and the Catholic Church in November 1979. I was not really sure how to live because in the seminary and within the Catholic Church, everything is basically provided to a priest. So I had to learn how to rent an apartment, to do laundry, to clean, buy food, pay bills, make a living. Can you imagine? Make a living. And on a deeper level, understand and discover what is the spiritual anchor? What is it that I can live with and use as my life approach, my journey? 6 months after I left the priesthood, I met my Richard. He gave me permission to explore a new life, to love someone and undertake this life journey over the past 43 years with someone else. It was challenging, as relationships can be, somewhat unnerving, just ask Richard, and freeing. As the author Elena Avila stated so well, sometimes the longest love journey is the inches from your head to your heart. In Richard, I made an ongoing attempt to make such a journey and still do today. After leaving the Catholic priesthood and meeting Richard, my life partner and my husband, we moved to Key West, Florida in 1982, and we lived in what people called the gayborhood. This was common in the 1970s and 1980s throughout the United States. It established a community of safety, support, and acceptance, so critical during that time, and maybe still critical today. We joined the Metropolitan Community Church, a Protestant denomination specifically doing outreach and engagement of gay men at that time. It was an extension of our new life in Key West. When the AIDS pandemic arrived in the 1980s, this church provided a home to many without judgment and provided support for these many as a spiritual home. Richard and I felt a sense of purpose and belonging as a part of this church community. This church in the Key West area was a powerful cause and promoter of social justice. At one point, because of the influence of that particular church, people seeking public office would come to service, stay for coffee and conversation, after service, meet us, answer questions, and ask for our vote. These were judges, mayors, county commissioners. However, this particular congregation, as a part of the Metropolitan Church, had a dramatic change in the 1990s. The service became Catholic in format, including communion and the words of consecration. Priestly garb was used during the ceremonies, and only biblical passages for reflection were used during the service, abolishing the practice of bringing in other religious traditions during the service. The preaching became anchored in a rather rigid biblical literal approach and style. During a time when the minister took a leave of absence, I preached for several months during his absence, and I enjoyed it. After services, some church members and board members would question my lack of biblical literacy, presenting the words as they are actually found in the scripture, and my lack of absence of a reference to the divinity of Jesus, our personal salvation, and the reward of an ongoing afterlife. At this period in my life, I found the belief of divinity challenging to comprehend and accept. Having read the Gospels, I found Jesus to be a spiritual leader and a teacher. That was the most powerful part to me. Many of Jesus' sermons and parables and experiences provide an example of how to accept people, how to treat people with dignity and worth, no matter who they were or where they came from. I struggled in this congregation, the Key West Metropolitan Church, with the emerging emphasis on service orthodoxy, conformity, and structure. As a result, and here we go again, we withdrew from the Key West Metropolitan Church in 1999 and did not participate in another church until 2007. Many of our friends continued to find the Key West Metropolitan Church a satisfying spiritual home. During this time period, 1999 to 2007, I became what some of my friends called a free thinker. I discovered beauty and divinity in nature, friendships, experiences, books, music, poems, paintings, memoirs, meditation, joy, suffering, and a vast array of spiritual traditions from around the world. And I really like being on a search and a journey like this. I also discovered during that time that I wanted to undertake this journey with others. I wanted a community of free thinkers, change agents, and explorers. As Rumi, the 13th century Persian poet, observed, he says, "It's your road and yours alone. Others may walk it with you, but no one can walk it for you." I wanted to walk this journey with others. During 2007, I was driving up Washington Road, coming from Goodwill, which I consider the UU department store. It's just me. And I saw the Sunnyhill sign. Now, this is the sign going back with actual letters and words that someone went out every week, even in rain and snow, and would post the sermon topic and sometimes who was doing the topic on that announcement board. And this particular Saturday, the announcement board had that a Buddhist monk would be preaching at Sunnyhill this Sunday, and some of you will remember that. My curiosity was piqued, and I attended. Although I knew nothing about you folks, nothing about the Unitarian Universalist Church, and I knew no Unitarian Universalists, after I attended that Sunday, I sensed something that connected me to this church. It was the thoughtfulness, the questioning, the lack of dogma, the personal love and support that I felt even the first Sunday when I sat next to the Williams family, which many of you remember, and they held my hand because, well, he's a newbie, and maybe he's going to make a run for it. Especially during the homily, because at that time in our history, it was an open mic after the homily and sermon. If some of you remember that, that was wild. But they didn't have to hold my hand for long. I returned each and every Sunday, and I soon joined. So here we are at Sunnyhill, a Unitarian Universalist congregation and church. And I reflect now, what does this life journey look like today for me as a member, as a UU, as a part of Sunnyhill? I have 6 brief observations that I'd like to share with you at this point about the Sunnyhill experience for me, and hopefully some of it rings true for you. First, I value the concept of a free pulpit. By that I mean the person presenting the sermon presents their perspective, and the congregation listens and makes their own decisions about the sermon. The sermon is an opportunity to reflect on ideas, principles, and issues, and is not a place to promote dogma and conformity. Although I'd like you to go away and, say that I did a good job, even in a free pulpit. So a free pulpit. Quite painfully and yet joyfully through Sunnyhill, I have learned to accept the role of white supremacy as a troubling part of our nation and of my life. I, as a white male, without recognizing it, have, in this culture, superiority and privilege and truly a lack of limitation about what I want to do and where I want to go. I now know as a Unitarian Universalist that I am a part of the problem and need to be a part of the solution. My Irish Catholic mother would certainly support the idea that I am always a part of a problem. And she would say that if she was here. My part and the response to this issue is an important issue that continues to evolve in my life as a UU. Third, I really love the feeling of spirituality in this congregation as opposed to religion and denomination. We are all a part of the spiritual evolution of humanity. Each of us can add to the respect dignity, and worth of the lives of all people we encounter. For me, during the past 2 years and my Richard's fight with Parkinson's and early dementia, this congregation has been my place of strength and support. I love standing in the back every Sunday, feeling your love, understanding and kindness toward my family and my marriage. This beloved community does that as a part of the journey as a spiritual community and a reflection of our principles. Fourth, and something I've had to learn with some members of my family, I listen to the statements and beliefs of others not to disagree, but to better understand and motivate my next steps in this journey. I can listen, but I do not need to always endure. I have a family member that has presented numerous angry and negative responses about Democrats, immigrants, people of other races, sexual lifestyles, and a wide range of other topics that are destructive and motivate hate and bigotry. I had to walk away from this dear relative for the sake of my own journey and sanity. At Sunnyhill, I have learned that walking away is not always negative, and quite honestly, it can be freeing. Fifth, being a Unitarian Universalist has a place for me in the journey of searching, questioning, and being a small part of solutions in this world and in my life. Unlike other churches I've attended, at Sunnyhill, I, during the week, revisit the sermons, my conversations with some of you, the experiences I have in this congregation, and you, the people, the beloved community that is so critical to my journey. I have to say, when I first became a UU and was in committee meetings or coffee and conversation, I often felt like I was in a room with a lot of restless kittens. You know, you'd bring up a topic and people would be going 15 and 16 different ways, and people would talk over people, and there never was really a good approach to consensus. And that maybe was a good thing, and I now realize that I'm one of the kittens. We certainly do push the boundaries, and I am proud of that. I have a dear friend who I have talked to about being a UU, and he came back and said to me recently, "Joe, I've read a lot about you UUs. I know where you stand on a lot of issues, and I have only one thing to say about you folks. Only UUs would picket outside the gates of hell for better living conditions for those inside." And I'm looking at some of you. And actually, I think what he said is fairly true. UUs, keep up the good fight on behalf of those facing the daily struggle of their own uniqueness and their specialness. We need them as much as they need us. So my spiritual journey is ongoing and will take directions not known by me at this time. After all, I'm only 75. I value and love each and every one of you that are a part of this journey. In the words of Angela Davis, I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. Sunnyhill family, keep up the good fight for us and for everyone. May it be so, and thank you.
How lucky are we? I do want to let you know that while the sign out front is now digital, Roy does go out there every week. Roy, our admin, if you're ever stopping during the week, to make sure it looks right. Rain or snow, we make sure it looks right. Please rise in body or spirit, however you're feeling it this morning, to sing with us Blue Boat Home. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. My sail and ruin my rudder as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of the heavens and our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Thank you. Please be seated.
It's time for our morning offering. We don't have a designated offering this morning, so our collection will benefit Sunnyhill and help defray our operating expenses. If you'd like to make a gift via our online giving system, you can do so by going to sunnyhill.org and clicking on the button that says Online Giving, and then follow those instructions. Or you can give by text at 412-324-3130. For those of you who are here with us in person today, we'll be passing our offering baskets around in just a moment. Thank you, everyone, for your generosity. Please join me in saying the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Before our closing words, I would like to thank everyone that had such an important role in this service. I'd like to especially call out Renee and Mary, Krista, my techies, Joe and Phil, the ushers, and Jen and Beth. Oh my God, this sounds like the Academy Awards, doesn't it? No statue, but here we are. Thank you all. Our closing words were written by Deborah Hafner. We are on a journey. We didn't plan it. We didn't have time to prepare for every eventuality. We may find ourselves in the wilderness, hungry, thirsty, doubting that we should have ever come. But look around. We are not alone. It is our journey together, a journey to our better selves, a journey to a better world, a journey to a more promised land. My friends, go in peace.